Have you ever wondered why your clarity of thought makes others uncomfortable? Why your refusal to accept shallow explanations creates tension in rooms full of people who've never questioned anything deeper than their next meal? Perhaps you've noticed how your intelligence, not the kind measured by degrees or accolades, but the kind that sees through illusions, makes you an outsider in a world that worships conformity. If you've felt this isolation, this burden of seeing what others refuse to see, then you understand what Schopenhauer meant when he wrote, "All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident." You are living in the space between the first and second stage. And today, we're going to explore why society fears your mind. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay until the very end, because by the time we're finished, you'll understand not just why you're different, but why that difference is your greatest gift to the world. Let me tell you about a pain that has no name in our language, the pain of the awakened mind, trapped in a sleeping world. You sit in meetings where everyone nods at obvious lies. You watch friends choose comfort over truth, relationships over authenticity, security over growth. And slowly, you begin to feel like an alien observing a species that has forgotten how to think. This is not arrogance speaking. This is the deep, aching recognition that your mind works differently. Where others see black and white, you see infinite shades of gray. Where others accept the first answer, you ask the 7th question. Where others find peace in ignorance, you find torment in shallow understanding. Carl Jung understood this burden intimately. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what he didn't mention is how terrifying this privilege becomes when you realize how few people want to claim it. Your intelligence isn't just about processing information faster or remembering more facts. It's about your inability to accept the world as it's presented to you. It's about your compulsion to dig deeper, to question foundations, to see patterns that others miss or choose not to see. And this gift, this curse, this double-edged sword of awareness, isolates you in ways that cut deeper than physical loneliness. Because when you see the strings pulling the puppet, you can never again enjoy the show the same way everyone else does. Schopenhauer called this the world as will and representation. Most people live in the representation, the surface, the illusion, the agreed-upon fiction that makes society function. But you glimpse the will underneath the raw, unfiltered reality that drives everything. And once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. This is why you feel tired after social gatherings. This is why small talk feels like torture. This is why you prefer the company of books to most people, because books don't pretend to be something they're not. They don't hide their intentions behind social pleasantries. They don't ask you to dim your light so they can feel comfortable in their darkness. The pain you carry is real. It's the pain of the awakened in a world that has agreed to sleep. It's the loneliness of the seer in a land of the deliberately blind. But here's what you must understand. This pain is not a flaw in your design. It's evidence of your evolution. Society has an immune system, and that immune system treats intelligence like a virus. From the moment you showed signs of independent thinking, the world began its subtle campaign to domesticate your mind. It started in school, where your questions were met with, "That's not on the test." It continued in your career, where your innovations were labeled, "Not how we do things here." And it persists in your relationships, where your depth is often mistaken for darkness, your complexity for complication. Nietzsche saw this clearly when he wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." But why does society fear intelligent minds? Because intelligence threatens the very foundations upon which social order rests. Unquestioned authority, unchallenged traditions, unexamined beliefs. When you think for yourself, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable people cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, cannot be sold to as easily. They ask inconvenient questions like, why? And who benefits? And what if we're wrong? Machiavelli understood that power depends on the masses remaining intellectually passive. He wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Intelligent leaders surround themselves with intelligent people. Weak leaders surround themselves with yes-men and punish those who think too independently." Society uses several mechanisms to keep intelligence in check. First, it promotes busyness over contemplation. When was the last time you had an hour to simply think? Society fills every moment with notifications, obligations, entertainments, anything to keep your mind from wandering into dangerous territory like self-reflection or systemic criticism. Second, it rewards conformity over authenticity. The people who succeed in conventional terms are often those who have learned to think just enough to be useful, but not enough to be threatening. They've mastered the art of intelligent compliance. Third, it creates shame around intellectual solitude. If you prefer books to parties, if you need time alone to process your thoughts, if you find most social interactions draining rather than energizing, society labels you as antisocial, weird, or problematic. It pathologizes your need for mental space. Fourth, it conflates intelligence with coldness. The stereotype of the brilliant but heartless genius serves a purpose. It makes people choose between being smart and being loved, between thinking deeply and being accepted. Jung called this process the persona, the mask we wear to fit into society's expectations. But for the intelligent person, this mask becomes a prison, because to maintain it, you must constantly dim your light, soften your edges, pretend your insights are opinions rather than observations. You've been conditioned to apologize for your intelligence, to preface your thoughts with, "I might be wrong, but ... double quotes, or this is just my opinion ... when you know, double, that you've seen something others have missed. This conditioning runs so deep that you might not even recognize it anymore. You might have become so skilled at hiding your intelligence that you've forgotten what it feels like to think without censorship, to speak without self-editing, to exist without apology. But awareness is the first step toward freedom. And once you see these patterns, you cannot unsee them. Once you understand how society has shaped your relationship with your own mind, you can begin to reshape it yourself. There comes a moment in every intelligent person's life when they must choose between being accessible to everyone and being authentic to themselves. This moment feels like death, and in many ways, it is. It's the death of the people-pleasing version of yourself, the socially acceptable version, the version that dimmed its light so others could feel comfortable. Schopenhauer spent most of his life in deliberate solitude, and he understood something that modern society has forgotten. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone. And if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free. This is not about becoming antisocial or misanthropic. This is about recognizing that your energy, your attention, your mental space are finite resources that deserve to be protected with the same fierceness with which you would protect your physical body from harm. The world will tell you that withdrawal is selfish, that unavailability is arrogant, that choosing solitude over social obligation makes you cold or difficult. But consider this. When was the last time someone told an artist they were selfish for protecting their creative time? When was the last time someone criticized a surgeon for being unavailable during an operation? Your mind is your instrument, and just like any instrument, it requires maintenance, tuning, and protection from those who would misuse it. Jung understood that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, requires periods of withdrawal from collective consciousness. He wrote, "Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. But society profits from your availability. It profits from your willingness to give your mental energy away freely, to solve problems that aren't yours, to carry emotional burdens that belong to others, to explain yourself to people who have no intention of understanding. When you become consciously unavailable, several powerful things happen. First, you reclaim your mental sovereignty. Your thoughts become your own again, without the constant input of other people's opinions, fears, and agendas. You can finally hear your own voice, not the echo of what others expect you to think, but what you actually think. Second, you stop being everyone else's unpaid therapist. Intelligent people often become emotional dumping grounds for others because they have the capacity to understand and the compassion to listen. But understanding someone's problems doesn't make you responsible for solving them. Third, you discover the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the absence of others when you need them. Solitude is the presence of yourself when you need you. And you need you more than you realize. Fourth, you begin to attract rather than chase. When you stop being available to everyone, you become valuable to the right people. Quality relationships replace quantity relationships. Deep connections replace shallow interactions. This withdrawal is not permanent isolation. It's a strategic retreat that allows you to return to the world on your own terms, with your energy intact and your vision clear. Nietzsche called this process becoming who you are, but he warned that it would not be easy. What does not destroy me makes me stronger. The discomfort you feel when you first start setting boundaries, when you first start saying no, when you first start choosing yourself, this discomfort is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that you're finally doing something right. Your unavailability is not a punishment to the world. It's a gift. Because when you emerge from your conscious withdrawal, you bring insights that could only be gained in solitude, wisdom that could only be cultivated in quiet, and strength that could only be forged in the fires of your own company. The world needs your intelligence, but it needs it whole, not fragmented by 1,000 demands. It needs it clear, not clouded by other people's confusion. It needs it powerful, not diluted by the need to be palatable to everyone. In the crucible of solitude, something miraculous happens. You begin to transform from someone who reacts to the world into someone who creates their world. This is the alchemy that Jung spoke of, not the medieval fantasy of turning lead into gold, but the very real process of turning unconscious patterns into conscious choices. Schopenhauer discovered that most human suffering comes from what he called the will, the unconscious drive that pushes us toward desires we don't understand, reactions we can't control, behaviors that serve us poorly. But intelligence, when properly cultivated, gives us the power to observe this will, to understand it, and ultimately to direct it. This is where you begin to understand why society fears intelligent people, because an intelligent person who understands their own mind is fundamentally ungovernable. When you know why you feel what you feel, when you understand the mechanics of your own reactions, when you can see the difference between your authentic desires and your conditioned responses, you become dangerous to any system that depends on your unconsciousness. Think about it. Advertising depends on you not understanding your own psychology. Politics depends on you reacting emotionally rather than thinking clearly. Social media depends on you seeking validation from others rather than finding worth within yourself. Toxic relationships depend on you doubting your own perceptions rather than trusting your intelligence. But when you develop what Jung called conscious awareness, when you begin to observe your own mind with the same detachment a scientist observes an experiment, everything changes. You start to notice patterns, how certain people drain your energy while others replenish it, how certain environments stimulate your thinking while others cloud it, how certain activities align with your authentic self while others are performed only to maintain your social persona. This awareness gives you something incredibly powerful: choice. Not the illusion of choice that society offers you, Pepsi or Coke, Democrat or Republican, this distraction or that distraction. but real choice about how to spend your mental energy, who deserves your attention, and what deserves your consideration. Nietzsche understood this when he wrote about the will to power, not power over others, but power over oneself. The power to say no to what doesn't serve you. The power to say yes to what aligns with your authentic self. The power to be comfortable with other people's discomfort when you refuse to dim your light. This is where energy control becomes crucial. Most people hemorrhage energy through worry about things they cannot control, anger about things they cannot change, and guilt about boundaries they need to maintain. But when you understand that your energy is your most valuable resource, you begin to guard it jealously. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. You stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to convince people who benefit from believing something different. Instead, you direct your energy toward what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself. This doesn't mean becoming selfish or narcissistic. It means becoming so authentically yourself that you naturally attract the right people and repel the wrong ones. So clearly aligned with your values that decisions become easier. So deeply rooted in your own truth that external validation becomes unnecessary. This is the paradox that Schopenhauer understood. The more you withdraw from seeking approval from the world, the more the world respects you. The less you need others to validate your intelligence, the more your intelligence shines. The less you try to fit in, the more you stand out. But this transformation requires what mystics have called the dark night of the soul, a period where you must let go of who you thought you were supposed to be in order to discover who you actually are. This period is uncomfortable because it involves releasing identities that no longer serve you, even if they once provided security or belonging. You might have to let go of the identity of being helpful if it means sacrificing your own needs. You might have to release the identity of being agreeable if it means betraying your own values. You might have to abandon the identity of being available if it means neglecting your own growth. This is not about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about becoming discriminating about where your warmth and care are directed.